So you hear about these DIY projects that you get on the internet, and you hear about the books for dummies, and you say, well, how do I do all these various things? Well, what would you do if you wanted to go out and do a $10 million project? Would you have to have $10 million? Would you have to have more than that? What all would be involved in that? And I couldn't think of anybody better to ask today than my friend John Inch, who's done a few of these in his lifetime. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, John, I got $10 million project that I want to do. What do I have to do it? What are the steps that I've got to have to do it? Help me out with it. Give me a little tutorial for a real dummy when it comes to this stuff.
Yeah, I get that question a lot. It's actually a good question because most people have a view of a project, and a lot of people have kind of an basic understanding of buying a house.
Right.
So it's very similar to buying a house. A little bit different stakes, a little bit different financing. Commercial financing is different. So you want to do a $10 million project.
Right, yeah.
So you're going to be able to get about a 70 to 75% loan to value or loan to cost loan, meaning that the bank will fund up to $7 to $7.5 million for a loan for this project. Given that you have a good balance sheet to lend to, given that you have some substantial holdings in the background, the bank can come after if something goes wrong. So you're going to get 70% loan to value. You're going to get $7 million from the debt side. So a lender, a banker, private lender is going to give you $7 million. You're going to bring $3 million of equity to the table. So 30% of this is actually coming from you. So 30% cash. You're going to bring $3 million to the settlement table. That $3 million will be funded through a draw schedule as the project moves forward. So you will then fund $300,000, $400,000 at a time to get up to $3 million. Then the bank kicks in to fund the last $7 million. So you have that $3 million. What most people think is that the deal kind of stops there. You bring $3 million, you have $7 million. But a lot of people forget about the bonding capacity. And government bonds and the way that these public improvement bonds get put on you, it's the civil engineer that works for the township or the city. They dictate how much you have to hold back in a public bond, meaning that there's improvements to the street, highway occupancy, there's sewer, water extensions, sewer pump stations. All of those things get put into a lump sum amount that's required whether you do the project or not. When you commit to the project, they record the plans, you commit to that bond. The bond is treated very similar to a $1.2 million loan. On this project, what we're seeing on a $10 million project, it's about $1.2 million, give or take a little bit, bond. That bond you will have to qualify for outside of the $10 million project. So you go to the bank, you get a $7 million loan, you bring your $3 million to the table. You're then going to have to go back and essentially it's treated almost like another loan, get a bond for $1.2 million that you're going to need to get. And that bond sometimes will cost to 1.5% to 2% during the life of the project.
Yeah.
So if you're getting into this project, you want to do a $10 million project, I would shake your piggy bank upside down and bring about $3.2 million in cash.
Wow. When we come into these kind of situations, you're thinking in terms of compartments or silos. Okay, I brought this in. Here I am. I'm ready to do my project nice and neat. But you don't think about all of the effects and maybe some of the ancillary things that are going to happen around it, like the neighborhood, the streets, other things that might be affected along the way in terms of other things to the project that we don't really think about coming out of the gate.
Yeah, this is best case scenario. So when you go into a project like this, they set up a contingency fund that's inside of your project.
Right.
So if the project's $10 million and you underwrote it properly, you'll set up a contingency account. Typically in this project, a $10 million project, you'd see about 6 to 8% contingency range. So $600,000 to $800,000 you'd have to put in a separate account that would be sitting there basically if shit hits the fan. So if there's roadway issues, if there are occupancy issues, you can use that contingency to fund those issues.
So if you're Professor Inch today and you're giving us a review of the lesson here, and you take a look at this, you say, okay, I'm looking at a $10 million project when I come into it, and you've obviously done that a few times. Here are the steps, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Tell people what the steps are, just kind of looking at it, starting out, and then at the end, making sure you have a big enough piggy bank, right?
Yeah, cash is king. So if you're starting off with the project, first thing you're going to do is underwrite the project.
Got it.
Make sure that the project's viable. Second thing you're going to do is go to the township, go to the city, understand what's the zoning like. Is this project liked? Is it encouraged? Yeah, one thing we run into a lot that projects fall on their face when they get to the township or city level. The third thing I would do is contact a lender. To be able to even, are you lendable? Which is something that you'll learn pretty quickly to see if your balance sheet can support it.
70% is kind of the number there in this particular case on the $10 million. Yeah.
Yep. The fourth thing I would do is go to your financial advisor and see if this is even, viable to pull off. So if you have $3 million, kind of sitting around and you want to do a real estate project, does this fit into your, long-term look at your financials?
And that, ladies and gentlemen, is a good DIY, or maybe one for dummies. For this dummy anyway, I understand a little bit about what I need, and it's not just an easy thing, but I better go in there packing my piggy bank pretty well, right, John?
Yeah, fill her up and come on over.
There it is.